foundation, it's underwater, like completely underwater. Some of the walls are starting to have black mold. This has been an ongoing issue for close to a decade now.
Wow, okay.
The city of Dallas has an infrastructure problem. The area does not have a stormwater system. So now we're stuck and we don't know what to do.
Sounds like he's fucked.
This next caller's parents are at risk of losing their entire home. We have a house that's been flooded. The city isn't taking responsibility. And oh, it gets worse. Let's see what happens. Tell me, what are you going through?
Well, it's actually my parents and by subsequently me. Basically, the city of Dallas has an infrastructure problem, apparently, according to the water department.
And me.
There's no water drainage system in place, and my parents' house, which is an older Pier and Beam house, is pretty much inundated at this point. Half the yard is very muddy at all times. I know we've been going through a lot of storms recently, but this has been an ongoing issue for close to a decade now. And now it's gotten to the point now where foundation, it's underwater, like completely underwater. I actually have video evidence showing that it's underwater. And now I've noticed that some of the walls are starting to have black mold or remnants of them like black mold. And now we're really starting to worry. I was eventually going to push this off and just call the insurance company.
Yeah.
But the house is paid off, and my parents haven't had insurance in quite a while because they've been trying to remodel the house.
Wow. Okay.
So now we're stuck and we don't know what to do.
So has there been a definitive statement by either the county or the city or the public works about the source of the water?
A person from the what they call a forestry manager from the Dallas Water Utilities has emailed me. Good morning. From the documentation, Public Works has cleaned the alleyway alongside your parents' home to make sure that water could flow down to the back. With regards to other residences and the neighborhood in general, the area does not have a stormwater system. From what I can tell, the neighborhood across the major intersection doesn't either. Stormwater inlets, pipes to take to White Rock Lake Creek, etc. Best course of action is to get on the needs list for infrastructure. Now, that's far above my head. I would write to council member over at the district, tell them about your needs for the underserved area so that they can put it on the needs list, maybe even on or near the top. And then they gave me contacts.
Have you reached out to those folks?
I have reached out. I reached out. The one person that answered was an assistant. They said they would email me, get in contact, and then follow up. And then I called back about a week later to say, hey, what's going on? And they wouldn't answer. So,
do you know who your council person is for that area?
Yes, I do know.
And what's that person's name? All right. So Councilman and his office are absolutely the right people to be talking to about this, and getting on that needs list is critical. Unfortunately, some of the things that happen in the real world is that you got to make enough noise, you got to be the squeaky wheel to get to the top of the list.
Yes.
Well,
one thing I was going to ask is, when you say it floods, is like the street flooded or just your yard flooded?
The yard is currently flooded. If I could have video, I could show you that. It hasn't rained here in about a week. But it's been like this. We're talking. This has been a case for close to a decade now.
Right. But if the street's not flooded, then, I mean, as a real estate guy, you got to just put French drains in, and because my parents' house gets flooded all the time too.
There's water seeping out of the road.
So it sounds like what the issue is that the underneath sewers or piping and it is cracked underneath. So while there's not surface water there anymore, it's water that's flowing underneath, is flowing across laterally in the yard next to the foundation and into the house itself.
Sounds like he's fucked.
So I want to talk about the fire.
That's what it
There's
seems
a lot
like,
of hold on.
There isn't any. Okay.
Mugatu. Hold on, Mugatu. So there's a lot of things that are going on right now. One of them seems to me like it's on fire. And that is that the house is not insured. Did I hear that? Did you say, is that what you said?
Yes, the house is not insured. I talked to my parents. I verified they're not insured.
Okay.
They're paid off.
So when we hear the house is not insured, what is our next move?
Well, try to insure, but now I don't think anybody will take this insurance.
Well, Let's have this.
I mean, look,
conversation.
that's gonna be problematic because of trying to get coverage for flooding or water issues. But there's other bigger issues that happen when you pay off a house and then there's a big loss. Guess who gets the loss? All of that loss falls onto the homeowner.
Well, my thought process, and correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm just spitballing here. But if the house isn't in a floodplain, like if it's not on a map, I was like, this is a flood zone, and the city's saying, hey, this is not an issue, you should be able to get it insured. Now, I don't think you can get insurance today and then go back in and try to make a claim on the black mold that's already there. But now you have the insurance. What if there's a catastrophic flooding and it washes in the house?
I think the bigger concern is that most of these insurance applications are going to ask you to disclose those kinds of things that are going on. So it might be an issue. What I would say, though, is to your point, this is not a question for us to answer or you to answer yourself. There are some really good, reputable agencies that can get you with insurance and evaluate that, and we're going to get you some of those resources.
But if you get denied for insurance because of the condition of it, then that you go back to the city now and these needs communities, and you're like, I can't get my house insured, man. Like so, but I still think the insurance is like the starting
Exactly.
point.
You should go and ask for it. You
It's
get an
on
agent
fire.
to do it.
Well, there's two things that I heard in that call. Pier and Beam, if it's Pier and Beam and it's just surface level water, how is your house being flooded? Because usually Pier and Beam, the house is elevated a bit. Now, what that sounds like means something's touching the ground and water is coming up. Secondly, if you're not a mold expert, you should never utter the words black mold ever. Just period.
Okay.
Because if you're not an expert on mold, because I did real estate for years, and I'm not an expert on mold, I know what my eyes tell me, but I'm not an expert, so why would I ever use those two? Because that's the kiss of death when it comes to investment properties or real estate.
Yeah, or
If you're
trying
not
to
an
get
expert,
insurance or costs or anything like that. A lot of folks use that language because it's pretty common parlance, but it's not what you should be using because it can be very bad. So when you're talking to other folks about it, and you can honestly describe what the situation is, but you don't really know what it is, it's literally like going up and saying like, oh yeah, looks like that person has cancer because they have a Band-Aid on them. And it's like, well, or their head is shaved, right? I mean, let's reserve those judgments and go through the steps. First step, get an agent who can try and get you some insurance to try and protect the house for future damage. 2, we're going to send you some contacts for folks at the city that should be able to help push on list and get you rised up to the top of it. Not being able to get insurance, just like Josh said, is going to be a really critical part there, because not being able to get insurance is going to put a big red flag. If you can get your other neighbors and other folks to talk about it, get those videos, bring them down to the city, it's going to also help raise that elevated issue and flag with the city to get it raised. You can also take it to the county itself.
You want to talk about jumping to the top of the pack? You got a whole bunch of houses that can't get insurance now. How are they going to pay those property taxes when something happens? You're going to have worthless property. And so there's a lot of motivation for these city programs to take care of this.
And another just a random tip that I would do is stick a fan down there. It's a Pier and Beam property. When you have that much moisture, you have the heat, there's going to be a lot of humidity under the house, and that's why whatever's down there is down there. Throw a fan there to get some ventilation. Open up some because that's most likely doesn't have ventilation. The crawl space, yeah.
Right. Well,
Wow.
the problem is, the house is pretty level with the ground, so the Pier and Beam is minimal. The problem is there's water both underneath the house and outside around the house.
So that's
the water is seeping out of the ground in this general area, and it's not only here. It's visible right now to me because it's the lowest point. But I've been to other areas in their neighborhood with very similar problems, and they're way up higher in terms of elevation.
So one other issue then, which you might be able to do, is get in contact with a company that does French drains or other kind of water remediation. Have them do a quote. Right? You might have to spend a couple $100 to have them come and do an analysis. But if you really want to get to the top of the list and really put a fine point on what exactly is the problem, you've got to have an expert come in. Because right now you're just kind of guessing, and those may be 100% correct, but it's about credibility and giving the threat it being credible. So
yeah, the biggest thing is going back to the black mold or whatever, is if you're not an expert, if you're not a lawyer, if you're not a contractor, and you don't know what specifically it is, you can be ignorant and then just bring in experts, because then you have not only do you have like factual information, but you have ammunition. That way, when you do have meetings with your councilman, you can be like, look, it's going to cost me $300,000 to fix this $150,000 house or whatever it is, you know?
Mugatu, are you understand everything we told you so far?
So far, yes. Thank you.
Okay. Do you feel like you got a little bit of help? You know what your next steps are?
Yes. I just have to put more pressure.
Okay.
You can get a bucket.
On the insurance, put more pressure, and reach back out to us, okay?
Okay, I appreciate your taking my call today.
Thank you, Mugatu.
Thank you.
Thank you.
It's a crazy situation. I mean, the water issues are always just a death knell for a house, and it's crazy how long it's been going. But you know, I really worry, is there an underground pipe leakage? I mean, that happens. And if it is, there might be some recourse from the county itself. There may be some resources there. But, you know, until you know what the problem is, you don't really know what the solution is going to be.
I can't imagine a scarier scenario
Yeah.
than having a paid off home and you don't insure it and you can't get it insured. And this is a nightmare. Guys, pay your insurance.
I know, because I come from the real estate world. You hear nightmare stories all the time of they're buying it that day and they get the keys of it that day and I'll get it insured tomorrow. And then literally it burns down. Yep. And I know that sounds absurd and extreme, but it happens. But also, I would just say with this guy, not knowing the full details, it's always easiest to blame the city, blame the state, blame somebody else. But sometimes a French drain can just fix the damn problem.
Yeah.
Right. But again, without having the experts or the contractor come in and tell you exactly what it will fix it, because if a contractor comes in and says, yeah, it's $20,000 to fix the French drain, that should fix it, that's on you.
Yeah.
That's on you, and it's not the city's fault.
And it might be even a simple fix, right? I mean, that kind of issue, but you can't even articulate what the problem is without having those experts look. So, I don't know. With that in mind, I mean, just leave a note, leave a comment if you've been seeing some of this. If you enjoy this content, hit like, hit subscribe. We'd love to see you back checking in on the Barely Legal Show.
Don't forget to like and subscribe. We're going to be here for you when you need that cheap date.